invited me here, share the podium with my old friend. Share the podium with my old friend Kishore. I owe him a belated thanks for hosting me a lunch some years back when I visited Singapore and gave a speech at Lee Kuan Yew School. He was the dean at the time, and I knew he once served as a president of the Security Council of the UN. So I asked him what impressed you most during your tenure there, and he said 3 words. So I thought, okay, what are those 3 words? He said, power, power, power. And I put that quote in my book. Even though we never talk about this, but I believe he and I belong to the same school of realism in the study of international relations. So especially when geopolitical rivalry is tensing up, I think realism is something that we should really keep in mind once again. Anyway, I only have 40 minutes and 1 minute is gone. I'm going to talk about, instead of the U.S. election, I'll get into that, but I'll mainly concentrate on the role of Taiwan in U.S.-China competition. Competition is a euphemism, actually. In my view, it's more competition than competition. But anyway, we live in Taiwan, and Taiwan, as we all know, will bear the brunt if anything goes wrong between U.S. and China. So we have to pay more attention to that. And my experiences with giving speeches is that after 1 week, people will forget 1/2 of your speech. After 1 month, they forget everything except your joke. And I happen to be not good person, cracking jokes. So I prepared a written script for you, and it's in your envelope. You may want to look at it, or look at the PowerPoint that I prepared separately. Okay, now this is the contents. I'll talk about Taiwan's role. There's several roles here, not just one. In the old days, up until the end of Ma Ying-jeou administration, tail wagging 2 dogs. Secondly, now it's bone of contention. Taiwan is the bone of contention between 2 dogs. And the third role, which is worries me most, is Taiwan the only trigger for U.S.-China military conflict. And why? Untold story of Taiwan. There's a great misunderstanding in the U.S., particularly about Taiwan. And the fifth is peace treaty. That is my humble proposal for some possibility to de-escalate the tension here. Okay, the tail wagging 2 dogs. I think this is history. I don't want to go into detail. You can access my prepared script. Anyway, it's actually this is the subtitle of my previous English language book, published in 2009 or 2010. Taiwan at the time was the tail, and we could wag 2 dogs because Taiwan went through democratization, Taiwan economic miracle, and moderate relations with China and all that. So U.S. and China pay great attention to us, and Taiwan took a number of initiatives that changed the cross-strait relations, oftentimes, catching the U.S. and China by surprise, and forcing them to react, sometimes favorably, sometimes harshly. Examples. Oh, okay. Examples are in my prepared speech. You can see the special state-to-state relations by Denghui's Cornell visit, 92 consensus, or whatever. I mean, these are all Taiwan's initiatives. We talked about over lunch this morning, and the white gloves. that is how Taiwan and China could sit down and negotiate on a variety of issues. So that's also Taiwan's initiative, Taiwan's invention. Also, 陈水扁 also, one country on each side and all that. And Ma Ying-jeou, diplomatic truce, 外交修兵, and ECFA, and a number of other things. So all the three presidents during their terms, they were very proactive on cross-strait, and that was unusual because the tail could wag not just $1 but $2. That's most unusual in my understanding of international relations. Now, that was history. Fast forward to the present time, present decade. Since President Tsai Ing-wen assumed the presidency, Taiwan became a form of contention because Taiwan leaned 100%. I mean 100%, not 90, not 95, but 100% to the U.S. side, and 0% to China. As far as I know, this is not a state secret. Taiwan at the time, during Ma Ying-jeou's time, we had 20-some channels of communication with China. Imagine two sides signed 23 agreements. So each agreement is to be followed by a channel, because ministry to ministry. The guy could pick up the phone and call the other side, hey, what's going on here? And we have this problem, and do that. We had that kind of channel. So I'm sure you still remember I think this February, one fishing boat, we incident and one of our Jinmen soldiers went out fishing and were caught by China and detained for several months. I mean, in those days, my Ying-jeou years, this kind of question would not even pop up, because one phone call or something would get freedom. So right now, because Taiwan needs also to track the U.S. and zero communication with China, all 20-some channels of communication were cut, and nothing gets done. So when you have no conversation, no discussion with the other side, both sides always assume the worst, and you see a ghost. Actually, there's only shadow. Always assume the worst. So Taiwan assumed the worst of the intention on China. China assumed the worst of the intention on Taiwan because there's no communication. And Taiwan's size, Taiwan's power shrinks during this period. We used to be, in the early 90s, we used to be 1/4, some say 1/3 of China's GDP, the entire China's GDP. And after the Deng stepped down, Taiwan was about 20% of China's GDP. And now Taiwan is only 4%, or maybe some say 3% of China's GDP. So Taiwan doesn't count that much. In 1 year, China's growth now was 5 or 6% a year. It's slowing down, but they can easily get over 4% growth a year. That would mean China can grow a Taiwan in 1 year. So in other words, China's weight is going down. So China used to pay a lot of attention to Taiwan's elections. My understanding is not anymore. Taiwan Affairs Office, they pay attention to Taiwan's election, but they really don't care that much. Not as much as before, because it doesn't make that much difference. Now, of course, another issue is the position of each party. But overall, Taiwan's weight is going down. But Taiwan, so U.S. importance has gone up. So China focuses their eyes solely on the U.S. and only slightly toward Taiwan. But this shifting of Taiwan's position in the military, in the balance, U.S.-China balance, has three consequences. One is heightening China's sense of urgency for unification, because they used to think when they had communication with Taiwan, when they had people-to-people exchanges, they thought, well, we may not marry you now, but we will marry you someday. So they had some hope. But with Taiwan siding completely 100% to the U.S. side, China lost that hope. Their sense of urgency for reunification is heightened. Secondly, Taiwan's geopolitical value to both China and the U.S. Kishore mentioned that, explained that much better than I do. The third is heightening TSMC's strategic value. TSMC become the tasty meat attached to the bone. It's not just a bone, but there's some meat here. So when I thought about TSMC, I thought about the old story in the Old Bible, Old Testament. King Solomon and the baby, the two mothers vying for one baby, claiming that baby was hers. So it took Solomon's wisdom to solve the issue without splitting the baby. And TSMC is a baby right now. Unfortunately, there's no Solomon. And actually worse than that, worse than the bone, Taiwan is also a trigger. That's what worries me most. This is why I'm probably one of the few people in Taiwan, analysts in Taiwan, who appear to be always more worried than others, because I think Taiwan is a trigger. The Cold War, not too long ago, Kurt Campbell, the U.S. Secretary of State, said this competition is not Cold War. I totally agree. I totally agree with Campbell. But I think it's worse. The competition is worse than Cold War, because during the U.S. Soviet Union Cold War, there was no Taiwan. There was no issue, no country, no part of territory that was so near and dear to either U.S. and China, or Soviet Union, that they were willing to risk a war with another nuclear superpower. So U.S. and USSR went through 17 years until the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. Even only during the Cuban crisis, there was that risk of direct conflict between two superpowers. Until then, only proxy wars or crisis. Korean War, two Taiwan Strait crises, wars in Middle East, Hungarian Revolution, and you name it, quite a few during those 17 years. Berlin crisis, but there was no threat of direct conflict. But not so with this situation, because Taiwan is so near and dear. There's no buffer. Taiwan is right here, so near China, and so dear to China. Not so dear to the U.S., not so near to the U.S., but to China. So because of the role, the trigger, Taiwan as a trigger, the competition is structurally more dangerous than the old previous Cold War. Unfortunately, there are too many trigger-happy hawks in Taipei. I don't have the names, you know better, in Washington and also in China. All three factors. And no communication or very poor communication. And worse. Why I'm so worried? Because U.S. policy is driven by misunderstanding of China. Taiwan, of course, China also has problem in understanding Taiwan, but not as poorly as the U.S. I think the U.S. is really think despite AIT, presence of AIT, despite all the CIA work and all that, I think that deep down, they don't know really what's going on here. The bias, one bias, which covers everything, is that the US people, analysts, government, and academia, and media, they tend to view Taiwan as part of the solution. Which is true. I think Taiwan should be and could be part of the solution. But they don't realize Taiwan also part of the problem. But there are also three misperceptions. One is that China alone changed the status quo, not Taiwan. And not realizing Taiwan. Taiwan also changed the status quo. And I think the consequences of this misperception is that the heightened kind of fear of containment. Taiwan, China, US-China collusion against China. US-Taiwan collusion against China. So China's fear is heightened. Secondly, emboldening Taiwan's pro-independence policy. I don't want to use the word temper, but I think that's practically the case. But at least people in Taiwan, at least DPP administration felt very safe that U.S. is on our back. So we don't have to worry about, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to reach out to China. We don't have to do anything that is conducive to reducing the tension. And thirdly is responsibility of management. Because Taiwan shirked off its responsibility, so all the responsibility management fall entirely on Washington's shoulders. Unfortunately, I think not good for the U.S. Okay. This is the first misperception. Second misperception is Taiwan people have the will to fight. I have a lot of evidence. I'm sure people here can offer your own observation. I think the general view in Taiwan is there's no will to fight, except the government sponsored public opinion poll. Government always sponsored the polls that was to say 70% of people are willing to fight. Because when you get a phone call from somebody asking you if you're willing to fight in the country, you got a phone call. I mean, morally correct answer, politically correct answer is yes. But in fact, no. Evidence about I put down some it's all open sources data. I'm not in government anymore. I don't have intelligence, but just open sources. We know that. So the young people are, especially the young officers are severely lacking in our military forces, especially Air Force. Air Force is the front line. They will be the first to die, and they were just exhausted by the now the only aerial PRC's penetration into our airspace. The pilots, especially if I remember, especially the major rank and lieutenant and major, the backbone, the squadron level pilots are quitting en masse, and the young recruits are very few. And also the army. If you go to any army units, you will find the company level, company leader and platoon leaders are in great shortage. So oftentimes the master sergeant has to serve as the company leader, and because of the lack of trained officers. So the training of the soldiers. Now we have recruits. We have 1 year conscript coming in. This training quality is also very worrisome. far as I'm concerned. I read one piece of news in the newspaper that we had probably a dozen young men and women who went through training in West Point, Virginia, Military Institute, and that one in South Carolina. And after they returned to Taiwan, all of them quit, except one. All of them, 1/3, all quit. Some of them quit before their time. In other words, they had to pay back the money. This is not a picture. It's not a picture of the army, that armed forces that's ready to fight. But the Americans don't know that. And sure, we have some elite troops. I think our Marines are pretty good, as far as I know. But other than that, I have a big question mark. So anyway, I think the Americans are not quite aware the deep heart of the young people here. They only come talk to people who are willing to talk, and they will tell you politically correct answers. So this understanding, this perception has three policy consequences. One is the policy design for Taiwan actually it's not work very well, because Taiwan people are not like Ukraine. People are powerless, and they don't want to risk their life. They don't want to pay a cost for their security. That's what it is. And secondly, again, the burden of defense falling mostly on the U.S. And Taiwan just pretending that we are preparing for war. Pretending, and underlining pretending. But actually, we're not. As I'm sure you all know that. The third misperception is Taiwan is a democracy. Taiwan is a democracy. Compared with China, compared with some others. But I think right now Taiwan is moving away from democracy. I would even call Taiwan probably half democracy. We have election, sometimes fair, sometimes not so fair. It's free. We have freedom of speech, like what I'm doing now, but unfortunately, it's toothless. It's toothless. In other words, you can bark with your heart's content, but you can't bite because you have no tooth, no teeth. That's what freedom democracy is about. Why so? Why freedom of speech is toothless? Because we have very authoritarian president. Most people don't know that. I spent quite a few pages in my book about this. This goes back to Li Denghui's constitutional revision in 1997. According to my venerable elder Qian Fu, his memoir. He said in his memoir, he was the National Assembly. He was the chairperson of the National Assembly. He said that during the process of the constitutional revision, and KMT has a version, everybody has a version, and all of a sudden, one day, Deng Hui slipped through his aide, his own personal copy to Qian Fu, and asked him and the KMT caucus to pass it. And he had to. He threatened to resign, but he didn't. So the Li Denghui's version, personal version, passed through the constitutional process and became the new constitution beginning in 1997. A new constitution empowered the Republic of China's president as if the Republic of China president is a king or queen elected. Why? Because, let's see, okay, here. Okay. Details not here. Details in my prepared. So because Taiwan's president's power is more powerful than U.S. president, than British prime minister, than Japanese premier, than everyone, because he or she can appoint and fire any premier, any minister, any vice minister without consultation or confirmation by anyone. In the U.S., you have to talk with the Senate. In the prime minister, to Japan, UK, you have to consult your fellow parliamentarian, and you can't just fire and appoint. Taiwan can. Taiwan president can. So personnel power totally his or her hand, and he or she doesn't have to show up in the Yuan to debate policy. I mean, all the democracies, you have to. In Taiwan, they don't have to. We don't have to. President William Lai, before he became president, he said several times toward the rallies, the interviews, he said, I will go to Yuan to deliver a report to the nation before election. After he won, he said no. So the Yuan, as you know, this is still going on, ongoing controversy with Yuan. Yuan said, we passed a Reform Act. The president has to go to Yuan to deliver a report and answer questions. So President Lai mobilized the Constitutional Court, which is 100% packed with DPP supporters. So that my prediction is not going to pass. The President Lai will never go to Yuan. And then President never have to hold press conferences. Fortunately, President Lai gave one, but as you know, President Tsai Ing-wen rarely ever gave press conference. The longest record was 745 days. 745 days, over 2 years, not a single press conference. This is our democracy. In other words, the king and the queen can hide in his or her office, ruling the country, appointing this and firing that, and getting this done. If I don't have enough money, I want a special budget. So you can use all kinds of things. It's practically king, and there's no check and balance on the president. So and yet people in the West, in the U.S., didn't understand it, and they still eulogize, praise Taiwan as a democracy, vibrant democracy. Especially, I'm sorry to say, U.S. Congress, which is very distant from our domestic politics. They think they love Taiwan so much. Taiwan is just pure democracy. So in their eye, Taiwan is a Snow White, being bullied by an evil person in Beijing, but actually they don't know that Taiwan has a queen or king in Taiwan. It's this misperception has positive consequences as well. Deeper. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not working.